Well, hello there. It has been a while for me to make a video, but for you to see a video of mine, it probably hasn't been so long. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, this is Are You Writing Cliches Without Realizing It by, I don't know if I can read this name, Away. It might even be a silent I and an S, Khan, by Mr. Khan. When was this published? It's unclear. Sometimes the not the title, the URL can have the date that it was published, but it's not in there. So I can't see, what the heck was that? I can't see anything. There's nothing here. Awais Khan, Awais Khan is the author of critically acclaimed bestseller In the Company of Strangers. Lectures on creative writing at Durham University, American University in Dubai. Oh, he lives in Dubai. Speaking of Dubai, I found this aquarium called Underwater Aquarium. What was it? Not underwater aquarium. Well, it was something like underwater aquarium and zoo aquarium or something like that. But it's a aquarium in the Dubai Mall, and there's an aquarium tunnel where you go into this tunnel. You can see fish sort of swimming around above you, and you can see like sharks going over you and stuff like that. This is a 48-meter long tunnel. I don't know what that is in feet because I am not an American person. I use the metric system, so if you're someone that doesn't use the metric system, you're going to have to figure it out for yourself. 48 meters. That is really long. And it looked really pretty. So anyway, tangent. So let's get into this article. How many times have you read a book and thought, now where have I read this before? That is one of the first indications that you've entered into cliche territory. The word cliche can be pretty vague, with people often wondering what exactly it could mean. What are cliches in writing, and why are they considered so harmful? This article will not only explore what they are, but also how to avoid using them in your writing. I don't know why this text is smaller. In layman's terms, cliches are phrases and expressions that have been so grossly overused with time that they've become largely meaningless. How many times have you read In a Nutshell and thought, not this again? 0 times? I don't pay that much. I didn't know that In a Nutshell was also a cliche. Isn't In a Nutshell just like a common phrase? Common phrases can't be cliches, can they? I don't know. That's exactly what a cliche does. It tends to annoy the reader to the point that they simply overlook or ignore the cliches in the writing, or worse, put down the book altogether. I mean, just because like an article I read used the word in a nutshell, I'm not going to just like put the book down or the article away or whatever. I mean, maybe that's a me thing. Maybe people around the world do it. I mean, like, oh, cliche, I am not going to spend my time reading this. This does not deserve the time of day from me. I mean, if people are doing that, in my opinion, that's a bit much, but, anyway. So we're going to be talking about some cliches. We're going to be maybe identifying cliches. There's a table of contents on the side here. You don't often see tables of contents. Examples of cliches in writing. How to avoid cliches in writing. Why should we avoid cliches? Are cliches necessarily a bad thing? And avoiding cliches. Okay, so guessing by the table of contents, this article is going to say cliches are bad, and it says avoiding cliches, because, so, you know, if they weren't bad, why you wouldn't be avoiding them, right? So, Anyway, now I want to say one more thing in this introductionary bit about Jericho Writers, because oh my gosh, it's so flashy. Sorry about that. Jericho Writers. I have reacted to an article or two by Jericho Writers before, and I don't remember them being particularly good, but we will see. I mean, I haven't reacted to an article written by this person before, so maybe he's going to be good. Examples of cliches in writing. There are many examples of cliches, such as one bird in hand is better than two in the bush, a chip off the old block, or laughter is the best medicine. They have been in vogue many years ago, but due to overuse, they've become tedious. However, cliches can also be found in descriptions and overall themes. I've never heard this one bird in hand is better than two in the bush. Maybe it's a very American phrase or something. I've heard, what was it? Get two birds with one stone. Yeah, two birds with one stone. But that's a, what do you call those? Metaphors? Yeah, metaphors. If we start saying metaphors are cliches, I think the entire English language will become a cliche. Don't you think? A laughter is the best medicine. Like, I mean, I don't know, but chip off the old block is a phrase that I've heard sometimes, but not so much. And I'm not even like saying that I've read it, but I don't remember reading it or anything. Anyway, let's see how many examples we've got. 3 examples. Okay, so let's get into, I don't know what I'm gonna do with the timestamps for this one. Maybe we'll just put everything in the big chunk. Okay, examples of cliches in writing. I think we can do that. Yeah. Okay. The delicate heroine and the strong-jawed hero. These descriptions are found in so many books that they've effectively become cliches. The delicate as a daisy heroine who falls in love with the dark, handsome, and athletic hero. While this may have once been very popular and still has a lot of fans, most readers want to steer clear of this storyline. They're more interested in three-dimensional characters. Even when using the specific storyline, you can easily turn this cliche into an original concept and explore why the heroine is delicate and good-natured. What happened in her life that made her like that? How do the trials and tribulations of life awaken a darker side in her character? Now we have something the reader would be more interested in reading. Similarly, the dark and handsome man could have a backstory which allows us to envision him as a three-dimensional character. Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn, is an excellent example of a story that defies all sort of cliches. Isn't it all sorts of cliches? Anyway, it is a bold and original idea, which is why it took off so well upon publication. Readers simply couldn't get enough of Amy and Nick Dunn precisely because they were so unexpected. I think Gone Girl, was it Gone Girl? Was that Gone Girl? I think so. But that I've seen the movie of. That was a movie, right? It became a movie? Because I think I saw the movie. But now I think the strong female character is turning into a stereotype. Like now, Gone Girl type of female characters are turning into a cliche or a what is different from, it's like a main character stereotype. It's turning into cliche. It's turning into redundancy, I feel like, now. If they're talking about Gone Girl, was this article actually published like quite some time ago? So there was something I thought was a little bit strange. Let me see. Okay, so similarly, the dark and handsome man could have a backstory which allows us to envision him as a three-dimensional character. This is, I don't know, are there like, because it's like implying that if you write the delicate heroine, the strong-jawed hero, you aren't writing three-dimensional characters. But couldn't it be like you would write this delicate heroine and strong-jawed hero, still make them three-dimensional, but within the cliche? Couldn't that happen? I feel like that could happen. But in order to make them actually three-dimensional, which they don't really talk about here in this article yet, is to give them like flaws and giving them backstory. I mean, character, you can give the people, I think, even if they write like a cliche type of character, they still give them backstory. But in the backstory, you have to give maybe something more about their flaws, or if their flaws and just more character, like what their, from their point of view, what their relationship is like with their family, what are their morals, and what are their beliefs, and what are some things that they believe in, but they are wrong about. Things like that would make them sort of a little bit more three-dimensionally chunky characters that have more, I think it's depth. Yeah, it's depth. You would give them more depth, because you're not a stereotype, are you? There is more to you than just being tall or being a reader or a writer. There's more to you. So when you think about yourself, think about the character as being like that. Like you first describe them as a stereotype, like a dark, handsome man. But behind that, like, what are they? What do they like to do for fun is another good one to think about, I think. So, using dreams or the weather to start a book. Starting off a book with a dream may sound like a brilliant idea, but it is not the most inventive. It has been used many times in the past to the point that readers quite simply skim through this to get to the actual content. Similarly, using the weather as a prop is also an example of a cliché. If the weather is somehow pushing the plot forward, then that is acceptable, but using it just for the sake of it is unoriginal and meaningless. Similarly, if the dream sequence is doing something to help the story along, then it makes sense, but including it is just to increase the word count would not be a wise idea. Okay, this paragraph is assuming many things about the person who is reading this. First of all, using the weather as a prop is also an example of a cliche if the weather is somehow pushing the plot forward. You know, if you, I mean, anything that you, it's not just about this phrase here, because I'm really hung up about this part. Using it just for the sake of it is unoriginal and meaningless. That can be said for anything, not just dreams or the weather. Like there is Like if you have a character that is of a certain minority race, you don't just have them in there for the sake of being diverse, right? There is a reason for them to be there, and something that, for you would probably want to try to make it something that is not about their race. But if for some reason their race or their culture or whatever is integrated into the plot and is important to mention, then it's fine. But anything, if you use it for just the sake of it, is meaningless. I don't know about saying unoriginal, because that's a strong word, but you could say that it's meaningless, or that it's pointless, or that you're not doing it. It's a disfavor. I can't find the phrase. Disfavor to the community. Maybe that's what I was looking for. Also, the dream sequence, something to help the story along, then it makes sense. Even if the dream sequence, maybe this is a pet peeve of mine, but a dream sequence, like even if it's something that will help move the story along, do it sparingly. Unless the book is about dreams, then it would make sense to have a dream sequence in it. But if it's not about dreams and you're using a dream sequence, then it's kind of a gimmicky device in order to move the story forward. I wouldn't say it's to increase the word count, just that. I mean, some people might do that, but I think some people think this dream sequence has some information that I need to share to the reader, and so I'm going to have this in here. But that could well be information that you can not have as a dream sequence, but sprinkle it throughout the story. So, they should have said something like that here. Assuming that we're trying to increase our word count, assuming that us using the weather is unoriginal and meaningless, I mean, that's your assumptions, but it's not right for me. It might be right for some people. But if I'm reading this and I'm trying to figure out if I've been using cliches and I'm called out as trying to increase the word count when I'm not, I'll be like, but that's not what I'm doing. So I'm not going to read the rest of this article. It could happen. It could happen. So you have to be careful of what you write in articles. Article writing people. You really have to be careful, because anyone can look at these articles. They are online and free to look at. Thank goodness they are free and not behind a paywall. But they are free to look at for anybody. That is a problem. That is not a problem. The problem is you forgetting about that. So, I've said it in so many videos. If you watch back to my other reactions, so many videos. I mean, I don't know why these people forget that they have an audience. Anyway, using well-worn plot lines that readers have become well-versed to. If you're saying well-worn, I don't think you have to say well-versed to, but anyway. How much do you look forward to reading about a love triangle? Not much, right? I don't know. I mean, I remember in junior high, I don't know if I say I loved reading love triangles, but I liked reading about love triangles and romance cliches. I mean, because you know what to expect, and it's kind of like you know what to expect, so it's not a surprise. And so if you want to read about a love triangle, you know where to go look for it, and then you're going to get a love triangle. But I guess maybe this author of this article does not like love triangles. Anyway, how much do you look forward to reading about a love triangle? Not much, right? It is such an overused trope. Okay. I notice a lot of articles sometimes tend to use trope and cliche interchangeably, but I don't know if you can do that. It is such an overused trope that most readers simply sigh when they encounter two people who've fallen in love with the same person. In the past, this storyline has worked really well, but precisely because of that, it has become a bit of a cliche now. People want to read something different, something that takes them out of their comfort zone. If you add the demands of technology and social media with people not having enough time, it is more important than ever for stories to be fresh and fast-paced. If there's a twist to the old love triangle, then that may be worth exploring, but it is easy for the traditional love triangle to become a cliche. Okay, we just talked in circles now. You said it's a cliche, and you ended saying it's a cliche. You're not giving me... Why are we... Listen, I might be picky. The title of this section says well-worn plot lines that readers have become well-versed to, and we're only talking about love triangles. What are some other well-worn plot lines? Maybe you should have gotten into that, because just talking about love triangles are a cliche. It's like love triangles are a cliche. People don't really enjoy them and get annoyed with them. And love triangles are a cliche. People are annoyed with them. You're being a parrot. You gotta give more examples. You gotta give more examples. I mean, I don't know why. These articles, they just don't give examples. I think at this point, it's who is writing these articles. I don't know what happens at how these article writing people, how it works. Do they come up with something that they want to talk about, and then they sort of say to their boss or whoever, I want to talk about this, can I write an article on that? And then they give the okay, and then they start writing it. And whoever edits it is the one that adds these titles. It's raining outside. Because this is just about love triangles and nothing else, so I don't even know. If I were you, I'd add another example. If not, I would not talk about, I don't know. What are we even talking about? First, we talked about heroes, right? We talked about different types of... We didn't talk about different types of characters. We talked about two types of characters and said that they need to be three-dimensional. But there are other types of cliche characters, not just the damsel, because I know this is about, the delicate heroine is about the damsel in distress, right? Not just the damsel in distress and the strong hero. The villain who wants to dominate the world is another sort of cliche, quote-unquote cliche character. You can have the silly sidekick, you know, for a comedic relief sidekick. You can have the hacker, the nerdy smart hacker character. You could have the cynical thief. There are so many like cookie cutter stereotype characters that, you know, if you really hone into their stereotype, you can really write something that is not so three-dimensional. They only give one example about for each. What are we even talking? So this is a very detailed, right, title, The Delicate Heroine, the Strong John Hero. And this is what some want detailed, using dreams or the weather to start a book. I mean, you could also add in flashbacks in here if you're trying. You should have talked about, okay, this is what you should have done. This is here. You first get into character cliches. And then you get into cliches in the hook of your book or something like that. because we have the dreams, we have the weather, we have the flashbacks, we have the waking up, / getting ready to go somewhere, looking in the mirror and seeing what I look like, because that's important for some reason. And then here we talk about the well-worn plot lines. This is a very general title, right, compared to the other ones. So try to stick with that. There's no consistency. Okay, let's have a drink of water before we move on to the next part. Is it just me, or do you ever feel like, not strange, but interesting that when you drink water and it's raining, I don't know, I just feel like I'm drinking water and it's raining and it's water that is falling. Never mind, I don't know where I was going with that thought. How to avoid cliches in writing. Okay. We should have talked about that in the sections, but anyway. It may not be possible to completely avoid all the types of cliche in your writing, but you can definitely weed out most of them if you try. First of all, it is very important to edit and proofread your work. True. True. That in itself helps in highlighting any cliches that you may have used. The key is to put some time between writing and editing. Once you're done writing your book or story, put it in a drawer and forget about it for a few weeks or a month. Afterwards, when you look at it with a fresh set of eyes, the cliches will jump right at you. It will be much easier to catch them. Are you sure? I mean, someone like me, who's been writing for over 15 years, even I don't sometimes catch cliches, because cliches can be so ingrained into the writing, just kind of like absorbed into the writing. I mean, I might notice some, but there might not be a point to remove them. Like maybe there is a purpose, and if there is a purpose, even if they jump out at me like these cliches, unless they're written badly or something, why would I remove them, right? While editing your work, while editing your work, pay close attention to sentences or passages that bore you or sound rehearsed. I don't know if I would be able to read my writing and think, gosh, this is boring, because it's my writing. Reading someone else's work, I might be able to find things like that, but my own work, it's really hard to be objective for your own work, especially if you're like a new writer. Hold on. I had a frog in my throat because it's raining, they come out. Bore you or sound rehearsed? Chances are that those are cliches. For example, if you have used the weather to initiate conversation between two characters, try making the weather an important factor in the plot, or maybe change the thread of the conversation entirely. Changing the overall tone of the sentence or completely rephrasing it can also help in eliminating cliches. I feel like this is fluff. I feel like Mr. Khan is not talking about anything here. The example that he gives is if you have used the weather to initiate conversation between two characters. Not If you have, because I thought the weather example appears when he talks about the weather to start a book. So if you use one example for one thing, try and stick with that because it's a little hard to follow like what exactly you're trying to do. You're bringing out the weather, initiate conversation between two characters, but I thought you were talking about the weather as a plot device or a cliche to start a book, but we're not talking about that here, so I don't know what we're doing. Even if you have a conversation of characters talking about the weather, how are you going to integrate it into the plot? Like what? I mean, I immediately think of fantasy because I write fantasy, so I immediately start thinking about, okay, so they're talking about how it's nice and sunny today, but in this world, it being sunny is actually unusual because it's a wet world and it rains all the time magically. And so that's why the characters are saying, oh gosh, it's sunny. It's strange that it's been sunny for a week now. I don't know what's going on with the magic in this place. What's happened? Has something broken? But if it's not fantasy, then what would you do? Like what? I don't know. It's not helping. Changing the overall tone of the sentence or completely rephrasing it can also help with eliminating cliches. Give me an example of doing that. Like what does that even look like? Are we still talking about the weather in conversation? So if a character says it's sunny with a smile, or she says it's sunny with a frown, is that what you mean, or do you mean something else? I have no clue. Okay, you're in your own head. Maybe I have no idea. Another way to avoid cliches is to think outside the box. Okay, that's the first good thing that I've seen in this article. Not the first, maybe the second. Because I did say something was true before. What did I say was true before? I said something was true before. Even if you're writing a stereotypical plot that veers into cliche territory, Even if you're writing a stereotypical plot that veers into cliche territory, like a love triangle, adding original ideas can help make it stand out. The Twilight Saga by Stephanie Meyer might feature a traditional love triangle, but the reason it became such a huge hit is that Meyer added the vampire and werewolf element to help the plot stand out. In addition to that, there were other more complex plot strings that helped the series rise above the competition. What were they? I would love to know. Yeah, we don't get into that, do we? Okay. So, listen, original ideas. Do original ideas exist? The short answer is no. I'm sorry to tell you that they don't. The longer answer is that we as humans are influenced by everything around us, by the movies that we've seen growing up and seen today, the books that we've read, and the cultures that we've interacted with, the people, the stories that we've heard. Everything is influencing us all the time. So when we have an idea, we were influenced somewhere. And something can be unique, but not original. And because you are unique, the story is unique. So you don't have to worry about a story not being original because it's already unique, because it's coming from you. Nobody can write a story about vampires and werewolves from your perspective. Stephanie Meyer, wrote a story about vampires and werewolves, and you can also write a story about vampires and werewolves, and it won't be the same story. So you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about not having an original idea. We don't, but we can have unique ideas because we are unique individuals. We are unique individuals with unique individual experiences. So please don't worry about not having original ideas. I am saying it again, but it's important. It's important, and it's something that I really want to drive home to people all the time, because it's something that I struggled with. I used to think that I need to come up with some original ideas. My ideas are not original. And then I was thinking one day, this was when I live in Japan, okay? So in college, we all had to go abroad somewhere. So I went to the States, and this was while I was in the States. I was just walking on campus. I think I had finished a class and I was on to my next class, or I had finished for the day. I can't really remember. I was just walking in the campus thinking about, what does it mean to be original? Like, how can I be original? Do original ideas exist? Can I write an original story? Is that possible? And it was that moment that I had this eureka moment, I call it. My eureka moment is that I am original. I am unique. And so my ideas are also unique. So I don't have to stress and go search for something original, in quotes, original, because it's not there. But what is there is the uniqueness. It's my perspective. It's my experiences. So after I realized that, then I felt so much better, free to explore ideas that I felt that have been done before. But it's through my perspective, and so it's new and unique. And if you want to use the word original. Okay. So maybe you could talk about original ideas, Mr. Khan. I like saying Mr. Khan. It's just fun. So, how to avoid cliches in writing? You're not really giving us much here. It's lots of fluff. There could be... You get into it a little bit more. Where are all these links here? What are all these links? No. Just really focus on how. The how part. And remember who the audience is for this article. Do you think everyone can catch cliches after they put it away for a while? Do you think that is possible? What if they can't? Think about if they can't, and then write about that. You know, if you can't catch cliches, here are a list of some cliches that you can be aware of. Changing the overall tone of the sentence to completely rephrasing it. What does that look like? Give an example, even if it's something that you've written, something that you've made up. Just give an example of what that looks like, and it will be a lot easier for people to understand your suggestions here. And let's see, talking about this love triangle, I mean, what is it with this love? Why are we talking about? The reason a love triangle was a huge hit for the Twilight Saga was because it was vampires and werewolves, but there were other things. I have a feeling that those other things, I mean, vampires and werewolves are kind of cliche things. Like, they're fantasy tropes. They're not particularly new and shiny. But the reason it worked, maybe that could have been added on here if you really want to get into that. Help the series rise above the competition. Like, I mean, this was a fantasy romance novel series. We're not looking at a romance book. It has fantasy elements in it. And the fantasy elements, I think, that was what also helped the series rise above the competition. I don't know what you mean by the competition. What was the competition? I feel like Stephanie Meyer really began a trend. I could be wrong. I don't know. I did read the Twilight Saga. because I was at that right age, right slightly still moody age to actually enjoy this series. Yeah, so that was how to avoid cliches in writing. Why should we avoid cliches? I feel like this section, oh my god. Okay, so I feel like this section could have been at the beginning of the article. I feel like because you're talking about editing them out, you're already talking about avoiding them. Maybe we should talk about why avoid them before. I don't know. Okay. What do you got to say, Mr. Khan? The reason for avoiding is simple. Readers don't want to read them. Not only do they make the writing seem clunky and boring, but they can also transform a perfectly fresh idea into a stale mess. Often our brains simply skim this kind of writing as it sounds repetitive or rehashed. Also, cliches are not good for a writer's reputation. That we're going into this territory. Okay. All right. Using too many of these phrases and descriptions can cause you to be accused of being lazy or sloppy. Even if the novel is exploring a fresh idea that hasn't been attempted in the past, the use of cliches can ruin its overall effect, which is the last thing a writer could want. Is there a book that was so cliche that it just went under the radar of popularity? Like what are you even talking about? Like, what is this? Like, is there actually a book that's like this? Is there? Are there books that begin with a dark and stormy night and have your Mr. Khan's favorite love triangle and delicate heroine and strong-jawed, boned, what was it? What was it again? Strong-jawed hero and was just so absolutely cliche, but it had a great message. But because it was cliche, people hated it and called it lazy writing, and it just flopped. Is there a book like that then? Because what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Use cliches of writer's reputation. Like, is there really a book that, like, somebody's entire reputation was ruined by the number of cliches they use? I can't think of any. Let me know in the comments if you know what Mr. Khan's talking about. Another reason to avoid cliches is that they can make the writing look shallow, especially where it shouldn't. Imagine for a moment that you're writing a very tense scene between the two protagonists in your novel, which will serve as a climax of sorts, and at the opportune moment, one of the characters ends up saying, "What goes around comes around." What is the problem with that? This is a phrase. If we're talking about cliches in writing, we're not talking about common everyday phrases. What's wrong with what goes around comes around? What is the problem? What do you got against phrases, Mr. Khan? What do you got against phrases? I don't understand. What? Someone says hit two birds with one stone. Mr. Khan is going to be like, cliche. We don't like cliches or something. Okay. I'm just holding my head right now because I see this first part of this sentence and it says, not only would this deflate the entire scene. Really? Is it that dramatic? I don't know if it's that dramatic. Not only would this deflate the entire scene, but it might actually make the reader abandon the book altogether because, of course, they'd expect something deeper from the character, considering it's the climax. Really? What if the character just says phrases like that anyway? I mean, like, Oh my God, Jericho Writers. I remember an article with Jericho Writers. I think it was like fantasy cliches to avoid. Wasn't that the article? I feel like it was something like that. And they said the most ridiculous stuff. I just, oh my gosh. I guess it makes for entertaining content. Ugh. There is no problem with these common phrases. Come on. Come on. Really? Seriously? We're going there? Okay. Are cliches necessarily a bad thing? Mr. Khan's opinion. I think the general consensus will remain that cliches in writing should be avoided. They make the writing seem dull, sloppy, and uninspiring. They squeeze the life out of an interesting plot. However, in some cases, it may not be a bad thing to include a cliche or two, especially when it looks like readers might be looking for something familiar. Think of it like when editors ask writers to use fewer adjectives and adverbs, or to use them when it is absolutely necessary. The same could apply for cliches. Sometimes it could be imperative to use a familiar phrase, or indeed, to repeat something for greater impact. Readers might enjoy the familiarity, and that could help them immerse themselves in the book more. Mr. Khan, Mr. Khan, Jericho Writers, please. Oh my gosh. Should be avoided. That is a very strong phrase. It should be. Squeezed? Is it that dramatic? Come on. Just because one character say what goes around comes around doesn't mean the entire plot is going to be ruined. I mean, if a book was just following a stereotypical damsel in distress, maybe that is something that I would think, okay, maybe I don't want to read a book like this anymore. Maybe I want to put this book down. But if a character says, what goes around comes around, and I'm like, okay. Like, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? Seriously. And they make the writing seem dull, sloppy, and uninspiring, squeeze the life out of an interesting plot. Like, what are you going on about? What are you going on about? Seriously. What is this? Oh my gosh. You say that they should be avoided, but sometimes they can be used. Give an example of what kind of cliche you think that writers can sometimes use. Like, for example, these kinds of cliches can be something that readers want. What do you think, Mr. Khan? I also thought this oh my gosh, this phrase, this sentence was kind of funny because it says, however, in some cases, this may not be a bad thing to include a cliche or two, especially when it looks like readers might be looking for something familiar. How do you know when readers are looking for something familiar? Like, if you were a writer and you're writing a story, how do you know if readers are looking for what goes around comes around? How do you know? How do you know? You don't know. You don't know anything. You don't know what readers are looking for unless, I don't know, you're talking with readers. But some writers are quite isolated. They're not talking with readers and keeping up with Bookstagram or BookTube or whatever. I mean, like, how are you supposed to know this stuff? Maybe you can give some examples in this article, Mr. Khan. Okay, Jericho Writers, you are absolutely ridiculous. Why be so dramatic? Avoiding cliches. Looking at the above points, it is pretty obvious that cliches can dampen or completely ruin the impact of good writing. They include phrases, similes, metaphors, or descriptions that have lost their meaning over time and are just easily overlooked and ignored by readers. Wait, hold on. What? Are just as easily overlooked and ignored by readers, maybe? I don't know. Using too many cliches in writing can make writers look lazy and unoriginal. There we go. Dramatic. Stop. It is important to avoid cliches by thoroughly editing and proofreading any work you produce and being more aware of what you are writing. Obviously, nobody plans on writing cliches. ... They have a knack for finding their way into a piece of writing. The key is to keep an eye out. Okay, now we're cliche hunters. All right. The more cliches that are eliminated, the better and less clunky the writing will be. While in some cases it may be pertinent to include a cliche or two for familiarity or effect, for the most part, cliches should be avoided to make your writing stand out. Readers today are looking for fresh, authentic voices with plots that shock and enthrall them in equal measure. There is no room for cliches anymore. Okay. How do you know what cliches or two to add in from familiarity? I mean, didn't you just say, Mr. Khan, didn't you just say, using the cliche just for the sake of it is unoriginal and meaningless? So if you said using it for the sake of it is unoriginal and meaningless, why are you saying that it may be pertinent to include a cliche or two for familiarity or effect? Just because I want my book to be familiar, here is a cliche. Oh my gosh, why? You contradicted yourself. You just contradicted yourself at the end here. Okay. I'm imagining that they wrote an article about avoiding cliches. And somebody was like, you know what? You can't just say avoid cliches. Like, what if some cliches are useful? And they're like, oh, you're totally correct. So I'm going to add a little bit about that in the end and contradict myself. The key is to keep an eye out. Cliche hunters in the building. Guys. How do you recognize a cliche? Like, if it is easily overlooked and ignored by readers, if you're reading it, wouldn't you easily overlook it and ignore it? What? So, what are you supposed to do? What are we supposed to do? I have no idea what is going on. So you want us to avoid cliches, but you don't want us to avoid cliches entirely. You want us to use some cliches for effect. Despite that you said using something for effect just because is unoriginal. What? Talk about an unhelpful article. Jericho Writers has got your back to be unhelpful if you want that. I don't know who would, but okay. So that's the end of this video. Either Mr. Khan needs to edit this article just completely edit the entire thing and stop being so dramatic. Or whoever was in charge of editing this article, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, how to say it in a nice way, but you need to really look deep inside yourself and you know, really ask yourself, is what I'm saying here have a point? Is there a point in being this dramatic? Will it actually help writers? Or am I just like trying to get attention by being so dramatic? Like, just look into yourself, deep inside yourself, and ask yourself those questions, because the level of unhelpfulness of this article is just, why? You're just writing it to get views, to get, I don't know how they get paid, but I mean, why is Jericho Writers anyway? Why Jericho Writers? Why? Because I thought you're for writers, right? You're trying to help writers, but this is not helpful. So I don't know. I don't know, Jericho. Anyway, so let me know your thoughts, people, my guys of this channel, watching this channel right now, you watching this channel right now. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think of this article? Did you have such a reaction as I did as I was reading this to you? Why? What do you think the Jericho Writers, was there a reason for them to write this? I have no idea. Was this helpful? Did we answer, are you writing cliches without realizing it? I don't know if we even answered this question. This might be a clickbait title. Like, did we even talk about how to realize cliches? I don't know if we have. We just talked about avoiding them and being dramatic about it. I don't know what's going on. So, I'll see you in the next video. I won't see you. You will hear me in the next video. I don't make that outro mistake so often anymore, so treat for you, I guess. The secret word for making to the end is parrot, because that's what this is, repeating and contradicting themselves. Parrot is your secret word. You can add Polly want a cracker if you want. So keep hydrated. You will hear me in the next video, and let's hope the next article is better. The fox. It's really raining out there. It's pouring. I feel like spring has arrived at long last. Anyway, take care. The fox is out.